everyone. My name is Brianne and I am from Warren County with the Indianola Thunder 4-H Club, and I will be presenting my educational presentation on laminitis. What is laminitis? It is the inflammation of the laminae in the hoof of a horse. Now, laminitis is most commonly found in horses, but it can also be found in cattle. It can be chronic or acute. It can affect both forefeet or front feet, or all 4 feet. On my board, I have 2 diagrams, a normal and an abnormal. On the normal side of the diagram of my hoof is the laminae, or the white line, which connects the coffin bone, or this arrow-shaped one right here, to the hoof wall in the hoof of a horse. On the abnormal side, the laminae has been stretched, which causes the coffin bone to be disconnected from the hoof wall, which causes extreme pain in the horse's hoof. Causes. There are multiple causes, and on my board I have listed a few. Excessive carbohydrates. If you are feeding your horse a high-sugar diet, and it is not getting enough exercise, or it is just sitting in a pasture, this can cause laminitis, which can also be another cause, which is too much grain. If you're feeding your horse too much grain, and again, it is not getting enough exercise, it can cause it to become overweight, which is another cause of laminitis. Lush pasture. In the first of spring, most of the time, the grass gets really, really lush, which has a very heavy dew on it. When the horses taste that dew, it causes them to want to eat more, which again causes them to get overweight, which can cause laminitis. Now this year, we don't have to worry too much about that grass because we haven't had much rain, which causes our grass not to be very lush. And overweight. Again, if your horse is overweight, it's going to have laminitis, which causes problems in its feet. GI problems and stress and shock. GI, or gastrointestinal problems, can cause laminitis, and stress or shock, such as colic and pneumonia. And if your horse has prolonged colic or prolonged pneumonia, that can cause stress, and also those sicknesses can cause laminitis and shock. If your horse comes into any contact with a lot of shock, that can cause laminitis, which can stun its body. Poor management factors, such as excessive work on hard surfaces and too much cold water. Poor management factors means basically that you're not taking care of your horse properly as you normally should. And excessive work on hard surfaces, it's the same as a human. If you have been running all day on, say, concrete or gravel, it's obviously going to take a toll on your feet, especially if you don't have much padding. Well, a horse's hooves don't have too much padding on the bottom, and if they've been working too hard on concrete or hard surfaces, it's going to hurt their feet a lot. And too much cold water. As soon as you're done exercising your horse and it is hot, and if you give it a lot of cold water, that can give it laminitis. Endocrine abnormalities such as hypothyroidism. If your horse has a problem with its thyroid and it is not treated correctly, that can give laminitis. Symptoms. There are multiple symptoms, and I have listed a few. The sawhorse stance. On my board, there are 2 pictures of this stance. This most commonly occurs if both front feet are affected. In my picture, you can see that the sawhorse stance is when the front feet are affected, they push them forward to relieve pain and bring the back feet up as much as they can towards the center of their body to relieve pain on their front feet. Fever in the hoof. When you pick up your horse's hoof, you should be able to feel the temperature in the legs and the hoof. If it feels hot, there's obviously something wrong with it. And heavy breathing. You should know what your horse's respiratory rate is, or its breathing rate, when it's just resting. If it's been working hard, it's obviously going to be up. But if it's just been resting and it's breathing very heavy, there's going to be something wrong internally, and that may be a symptom of laminitis. Another thing is, between our deep digital flexor tendon and the digital cushion, there's something known as the digital artery. If this artery has a pounding pulse when you are feeling the hoof, this could mean that it has laminitis. And also, a good thing would be to know your horse's normal temperature. A normal temperature for a horse would be between 98.9 and 101.3, depending on your horse. Treatment. The treatment of laminitis for your horse consists of both a veterinarian and a farrier. The veterinarian will know how to correctly treat the horse as to retain the normal, what your horse would normally be on the inside. It will, if it's acute laminitis, it will give it a shot or an anti-inflammatory such as Banamine. And if it's chronic laminitis, it may insert a stomach tube and use a mineral oil such as sulfate. The farrier will know how to correctly shoe the horse as to retain soundness in the hoof. Our first example is the wooden shoe. Between the hoof and the wooden plate on the bottom is a putty. This will help to retain soundness in the hoof and help reduce swelling in the frog, which is right here on our diagram. The heart bar shoe is commonly known as a frog support, and it gets its name from its heart-like shape. In the center here, in the point of the heart, is a part that comes down over the frog that can help reduce swelling to put pressure on that, and it also helps to retain the shape of the hoof. The rail shoe, it has a special netting in the middle and a large metal bar around the outside. This doesn't quite help to retain the shape of the horse's hoof, but it does help retain the soundness and the correct form of the hoof. On the finished rail shoe, we have on top of the netting a putty, which is similar to the kind in a wooden shoe. This also helps to reduce the swelling in the hoof. Prevention. Prevention of laminitis is very, very easy. On the causes of laminitis, make sure that you don't, for prevention, make sure that you don't feed your horse a high sugar diet if you're not exercising it a lot. Don't feed it too much grain and lush pastures, and again, of course, we don't have to worry about that this year. But for years ahead, if you do own a horse, make sure that when the grass is first coming out after the snow and it has that lush dew on it, it's like bright green. If you think your horse might overeat on that, keep it in a stable or keep it locked up somewhere in a dry lot where it doesn't have that grass. And overweight, excessive weight. If your horse is overweight, try getting something where it can maybe lose some weight, maybe another exercise program, or not feeding it too much, backing off its feet slowly. GI problems and stress or shock. Colic and pneumonia. If your horse ever gets colic or pneumonia, make sure you contact your veterinarian immediately so that it does not result in laminitis. Poor management factors. Don't work your horse too hard on hard surfaces. That will hurt its feet, which can cause laminitis. And too much cold water. Give your horse access to clean, fresh, and cool water, except right after exercise when the amount should be regulated. And hypothyroidism. If your horse has hypothyroidism, you should have some treatment program set up with your veterinarian so that you can regulate that so it does not result in laminitis. Laminitis is a catastrophic event and it should always be treated as an emergency. If you can take this extra information that I have given you and help to better take care of your horse, you may be able to keep your horse from getting laminitis. I received all of my information from Dr. Richard Runyon in Sheraton, Iowa at the East Ridge Animal Center. I also received it from the Merck Veterinarian Manual and from various internet resources. Remember, laminitis is an emergency and it should always be treated as such. If your horse has any symptoms or if you notice something different in your horse, you should immediately contact your veterinarian. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. The question was, do I have a horse with laminitis? Actually, I have a miniature pony who got foundered, and in researching this, I found that laminitis is the cause of founder. And once they get founder, it's pretty much incurable, but if you catch laminitis soon enough, you can cure it. Are there any other questions? Actually, no, we haven't. The question was, have we been able to cure ours? No, we have not. We did not catch it until after it had founder, And our problem, how he got it, was the lush pasture. And most common ponies can get laminitis because they're so much smaller, and a lot of times they're more stockier built than a normal horse would be. And if they get access to that lush green grass, they'll keep eating it, and that's what happened to him because he got foundered. Yes? Actually, the question was, did we use any of these treatment shoes on our pony? And no, we did not, because he was already foundered. He was past those beginning stages of laminitis, and he'd already been foundered. So we talked to our veterinarian, and he said there was pretty much no cure for it because it's already gotten past those stages. Are there any other questions? Okay, this concludes my presentation.